This is the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and when I bought it last year, I thought this would be it. Finally, my dream machine. It's actually the first product that started a very interesting trend. See, Apple has always been known for telling consumers what they should want instead of listening to them, and its 15-inch predecessor was, in a word, a mess. From bad keyboards to display issues to thermal throttling, it was clear that Apple's obsession over thin and light was probably ahead of its time. The solution was to cave in and make a product larger. To own the title of being a pro product, function had to follow form and not the other way around. The problem is that I think that this product was either late or the catalyst that Apple needed to prove that it was time to transition. It patched the problem the 15-inch model had, but then noticed that it hasn't been refreshed since, 2019? Transition periods are always complicated, and no company is more notorious for them than Apple. This is the company that pushed the market to adopt the CD-ROM over floppy drives, only to kill the slot early for digital media, USB over serial ports, only to kill that for USB-C. It made the headphone jack popular again, only to kill that later over Bluetooth. Yes, it's a pattern, but even if Apple has been right most of the time, what happens when you're caught in between? Here I was thinking this computer would be it, so I spent an insane amount of money in maxing it out to its full potential. Yes, that crazy amount. And then about 2 months into living my dream, I realized that I sort of made a mistake. A very expensive one. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and in today's After the Buzz, let me explain why, just to spare you the drama, sponsored by Clean My Mac X. So for context, I bought this computer in September of 2020. My 2018 15-inch unit was already coughing at 4K exports, and after the M1 announcement, it was clear that this computer wasn't going to get an Intel refresh. Yes, I know that I was a year late, but if you saw the presentation, the numbers were just too good to be true, and Apple has always been notorious for over-promising and then under-delivering in its Pro products. My logic was to avoid the curse of the early adopter because I couldn't trust my workflow to any unproven product. So everything started fine. I ordered in silver to avoid the scuff marks from the space gray model, got my D-brand skin to give it this retro look in white, and this mouthed invisible stand is a godsend. Propping this computer to a higher position has proven to be crucial for less back pain and also heat dissipation. For the better part of 2 months, I was in heaven. I think that what I liked the most about this computer was its display. You would think that an extra inch in real estate isn't much, but the nearly border-to-border design is crazy immersive. Even today, the 16-inch Retina display is best in class for any laptop when it comes to color accuracy and detail, even if it falls behind in contrast ratio as a natural limitation of IPS LCDs. Still, the combination of this panel with these speakers is still crazy. I have yet to hear louder and richer results from any laptop in whatever category you'd like to compare it to. The combination of the skin plus the stand has helped it remain like new for the amount of months that I've been using it, and I also noticed that the added thickness serves an extra purpose for aging. I mean, I no longer get the sticky feel after trying to open this laptop when exposed to heat, and I noticed that the glass panel now no longer is prone to permanent scratch marks from the keyboard. And then, speaking of the keyboard, it's back to being great. Sure, a bit noisier, but the return of these scissor switches has solved the bigger issues of its predecessor. I still wish that we had the option to lose the touch bar, but I'll admit that it doesn't really bother me as much. My hands are mostly concentrated on this massive trackpad, which is still best in class, and where its size doesn't get in the way of your work. If anything, I feel that way about the large palm rest, but it comes with the territory if you want a machine this large. Overall, from multitasking to video editing to watching a movie, for the better part of just 2 months, I was in love. My problem is when I had to order the M1 MacBook Pro and Air for review. Theoretically, these two products don't even really compete against the larger variant, so I thought that this would be your typical laptop review that I would then edit on this 16-inch model, but then this happened.
It's actually gonna do it. It did it. 2 minute, no way.
And then this.
2 minutes, 31 and 70. But it's a $5,000 computer. I mean, it makes sense.
This is part one of when I learned that I had made a mistake. Yes, two computers that cost a quarter of what this larger computer cost me were almost as good. I mean, sure, I could export a video around 2 minutes faster in the 16-inch model, but that was the least of my problems. See, this 16-inch MacBook Pro falls into the old paradigm of computer, which was that the more you have, the better. Larger meant better thermals, more space for larger batteries, more fans for cooling, a discrete GPU, and you guessed it, all the hardware chews up the battery. The fans of this computer are so aggressive that even if I let it play the screensaver, they just destroy the battery. I mean, if you're editing a video, the most you get is an hour. But again, I say paradigm because at the time, we didn't know any better. We knew fan noise and terrible battery life were par for the course on powerful laptops. So cue in the M1 and the paradigm shift. Forget the need for cooling. The fan is there just in case, which as a result means that you can enjoy true all-day battery life. I won't even bore you with all the details. I'll just link to those two separate videos for you to understand where I'm coming from. The point is that those two entry-level computers are just as good in performance and better in every other thing that's not the larger real estate on the display or the added ports, if that's your jam. But then we get to part two of when I learned that I had made a mistake, and it's that I didn't think that planned obsolescence would reach this computer so quickly. WWDC 2021 already started placing a couple of nails into the coffin of this Intel Mac. If you notice, macOS Monterey already has features that will only come to Apple Silicon. And sure, these aren't consequential, but I'd call those a red flag. And then there's the fact that I've spent the past few weeks not wanting to use this 16-inch MacBook Pro because I'm already noticing a lot of applications slowing down, and these aren't even power-hungry apps. The amount of lag in some Microsoft Office applications like OneNote is insane. The sluggish launch of certain basic applications like Chrome is unnerving. The beach balls and drop frames on Final Cut Pro, regardless of my 64 gigs of RAM, just don't make sense. And listen, I'm not saying that developers or even Apple have decided to abandon these applications for Intel Macs, but I can tell you that performance has been degrading quickly since the launch of the M1 variants. And sure, it could be perception given how I've been exposed to both M1 and Intel, but if I'm paying more for an Intel Mac in absolutely every category, I technically should be getting a better experience. If all the extra specifications I bought don't reflect a better overall experience, then that means that this lineup has no reason for being. To fix some of the lag issues, I was forced to get creative and look for ways to optimize my machine, regardless of all the excess hardware that I bought with it. Even the M1 needs some fine-tuning every now and then just to keep it in good shape, and one of my favorite tools to get that done comes from today's sponsor, Clean My Mac X. Clean My Mac X offers an intuitive design that's modern and gives you a quick bird's eye view of every single essential you can think of. From malware protection to SSD and RAM usage, to what's draining your battery life, to CPU performance, Wi-Fi performance, you name it. It natively supports the M1 or Intel, so no matter what you're covered, and then the service is even capable of detecting malicious components and removes them immediately in such a way that, hey, even Apple authorizes its use. Old, new, M1, Intel, doesn't matter. Clean My Mac X is a must-have essential. Follow the first link in the description to learn more about how to get started. To conclude, let's just say that this video felt like a moral responsibility. The 16-inch MacBook Pro was a great solution to a problem 2 years ago, but for those of you who think that Apple isn't willing to cannibalize its own products, just remember how the iPhone pretty much killed the iPod. If we're honest, I struggle to think of who this computer is for right now. Even if you were one of those people that prefers a large display, I think buying any M1 with an iPad for sidecar or even an external monitor would be cheaper than the base model of this 16-inch model. The chips are dated, so it's not for Intel fanatics, and unless you need specific plugins that are still not supported by M1, then this product simply has no reason for being. Bottom line, I sadly can't recommend that you buy the 16-inch MacBook Pro in 2021. If it had massive discounts, then sure, but as it stands right now, I seriously recommend for you to wait for the refresh that's been rumored for the fall. Fun fact, I'm actually editing this video on the M1 13-inch MacBook Pro. And hey, feel free to disagree in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me regret spending so much money too late. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.